Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I'm delighted to be talking with the creative duo of Matt Bailey and Chris Herdman. We're talking pulps and comics and all the things on this episode. So many thanks to you both for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're talking about a project called Sleek Beak on this episode, and I'm curious how the two of you aligned in your creativity. How did this collaboration come to be?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Speaking for me, I've been a lifelong comic fan. Actually doing comics and all things, nerdy. I've been reading comics since I was four, and comics kind of got me into a gateway to kind of a gateway thing into pulp fiction. Every once in a while they would pull in, do features on, comics and do like characters like the Shadow, Doc Savage, all the other, a lot of other pulp. And basically, uh, I mean, way back in the day, there was a cartoon called well, first it was DuckTales. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you've heard of that one. DuckTales,
Very
and there
much
was
so.
this spinoff of DuckTales called Darkwing Duck, which featured this pulp fiction style hero, sitting at kind of Disney. It was Disneyfied, so it wasn't, but it was very Disney, very silly. So anyway, a few years ago, they had a reboot series of the I don't know if you saw it. It was a Ducktales reboot series, where and
Mm-hmm.
it basically in the series, Darkwing Duck was basically just a TV show. It wasn't And so in one of the episodes, they were talking about doing a basically what's called a gritty reboot of Darkwing Duck. So
Mm-hmm.
and so I thought that would be just such a great idea, to actually do Darkwing Duck, but do like a more like a Pulp Fiction style story. Take away all the Disney silliness, and
Mm-hmm.
just make it
Mm-hmm.
just a hardcore, badass hero, of Darkwing Duck, kind of like the way Pulp Fiction heroes used to be,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and same time, and so yeah, that's where it got to, that's where it came from, basically. I figured Disney would never tell that story, for a number of reasons, so I
Mm-hmm.
decided to just kind of tell that story on my own. So, and here we are. We saw, I've never really had success, as far as being like, I always wanted to be a comics professional, either as far as writing or art, but it never really happened for me. So I saw that success people were having with crowdfunding, so I figured this was my shot. So we wrote up a script and we got in contact with an artist. His name is Mauricio Caballero Peza. Excuse me, I was almost said Grammy nominated, Eisner
I
nominated artist. Mauricio Caballero Peza, and we contacted him and we took it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. You will be glad to know that I've interviewed Tad Stones on the podcast. So you are joining a podcast in the company of Darkwing Duck because he is the creator of Darkwing Duck. So I'm a fan of that character. I'm also a fan of pulp. So I'm curious about how the two of you connected with comics and pulps initially as readers and as creators.
Well, yeah, we said, comics. It was the gateway to pulp. They always featured, a lot of pulp style people like the Shadow, Doc Savage, other people. So I don't know about you,
no,
him, but
I'm more mainstream with my influences.
yeah,
I didn't really get into the pulp thing, but where Matt gravitated to writing and creating, I was more along the artistic, the penciling and inking avenue. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, a, a lot like Matt, and out and life gets in the way, and then you have to go into your 9 to 5 job, and here I am 50 years old, and I decided that I wanted to get back. And I helped Matt with the Kickstarter to try to get it squared away. And we've been working with another company called
Ink marketing. Yeah.
Ink Marketing, and Kevin at Ink has been helping us along the way as well.
Cool, cool. Curious about that collaborative process. If you want to talk anything about your creative process together and then how the project sort of gotten to this stage.
Okay. Well, I had the idea, and I mean, I always wanted to. He's been one of my big, best friends, since high school. We've known each other a long time, so I've always dreamed of working with him.
So he'd write the characters and develop the characters, and I'd draw them for him. I'd do some pages here and there for him, and kind of do some character designs and that along that vein. As far as the writing process, I don't know how he's doing it, but he'll turn out the pages, and I thought that Sleek Beak was one of his stronger scripts. I thought it was a good idea, and all that I've learned about Kickstarter over the last couple of years, I think now is the time to kind of self-publish, and so
Hmm.
that's the road that we're on right now. And we've got the active Kickstarter going with 12 days left, something like that. We're trying to get over that hump to get funded and get the first one under our belt, because then the first one with the proceeds of that leads to the second one, and then away we go. Hopefully that's the way it should work.
Yeah. If I'm a listener out there, and especially if I'm kind of familiar with pulps, familiar with comics, maybe familiar with Darkwing Duck, anything that you might let me know about why I want to be a supporter of the project.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're a fan of pulp and comics, I think it's a great combination because we think we got a great mix between the two. Not too, pulp fiction. Those things tend to be, pretty violent, pretty bloody. But we didn't go that far. So we just want to tell more like more of a mix between the two, as far as keep it between, comics and at least just a fan of both worlds, basically. We think we did a really good job of mixing the two.
Yeah. I imagine it's also pretty inspiring and satisfying to see the project come to this point and to see the character that you've envisioned and the story you've envisioned come to life in this way.
Oh yeah, it's great, because like I said, I've at least I know we both been dreaming of our whole lives, and we never as far as living here in the middle of West Virginia, it's kind of hard that have actually broke into mainstream comics from West Virginia. But Bo Smith has been one of them, and
Hmm.
but as far as just to get this far, it's been a dream come true.
Yeah, yeah. What do you envision as you're kind of unlocking this world? Do you envision the stories to continue? Do you envision sort of a universe that's expanding, or anything like that that you'd like to mention?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we've already got a sequels, spin-offs planned. Hopefully, there's a bunch of other characters in the Darkwing Duck, the actual cartoon cut, Darkwing Duck universe that we love to, bring in, kind of do our own take on it. And yeah, and I've already got other characters kind of planned that, not even from that universe to, of my own creation that I would love to feature.
Nice, nice. Um, if I am a listener and I want to support, where are some places I might go? How can I find out more about your creativity in any spaces like that in person or online?
You can go online, you can go on actually Kickstarter.com. Just real easy. Just search for Sleek Beak or Mr. Sandshark Comics. That's our comic company. And
Hmm.
and as far as we're on TikTok. As far as Mr. Sandshark Comics is right now is on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We're on Kickstarter. I'm sorry, excuse me. We're on
Facebook.
Facebook. We are on um, X or Twitter, whichever one you want to call it. There, uh, putting up some new content, and there and comment tent, so that you can comic looks like, and as far as our style goes.
Kickstarter has plenty of tiers, whether you just want to donate a couple dollars, or you want a hard copy, or there's several different the higher tiers can have multiple copies, two different covers of the graphic novel. So it's packed with a lot of art. Mauricio, the artist, kind of lends his artistic style lends itself real well to what Matt's put down on page. So Kickstarter.com, we're trying to get over the hump. We're trying to get our first project, on its way, and then we start dealing with the logistical side of mailing copies out and shipping and all that kind of stuff.
We've also got some extras, as far as not just the books itself. We got stickers. We got this we got a bookmarks. We've got kind of a drawing feature. If you want to, pay a little extra, you can have your actual. You can be actually in the comic, as not your, as far as like an anthropomorphic, animal version of yourself. But yeah, we've got lot to offer.
Nice, nice. Sounds great. And I see the boxes behind you on the shelf. So the Kickstarter fulfillment, I think, is being stocked, it looks like. Many thanks to you both.
Yeah.
Thank you.